Okay, it's Does This Pyro Segment Suck, the January competition, and this is the only segment brave enough to stare directly into the abyss of the creative imagination, squint a little and say, huh. Today's entry, big ideas, big field, big risks. We're looking at Shaun Hauter's work from Skywars 2025. Shaun's a designer who is not afraid of complexity, and more importantly, he understands that complexity on a big stage isn't just about adding more stuff. Complexity isn't just one thing. It's music choice, it's effect choice, it's progression, cleanliness, focal discipline, and most critically, context. If you miss any one of those things, suddenly the gears start to grind on what should have been a kaleidoscope-sized moment in the machine. Shaun writes,
Had a miscue or three, but stellar overall. ...
Okay, Shaun, let's go miscue dumpster diving, shall we? Before this segment even begins, I don't like to reach outside the timestamps for these because there's a lot, but this one earns an exception because there's a very valuable takeaway. Shaun deliberately closes out the previous section with an open, free-running, mid-high wash, capped by brocade cross sets, driving to a vertical climax. Then he lets things breathe. 10 full seconds of audience processing time. That pause matters, especially when you're about to pivot into a completely different design language. It's a reset. That is necessary, and it's really good storytelling. Shaun was working with elevated effects wheels in 2025. Every new point of origination on a field, when you have elevated effects, or just on the field in general, it explodes your dimensional options. The effects hit the audiences the same way that Doctor Strange did the first time you see it. That Escher geometrical folding reality dimensionality. It's amazing to look at, but like anything else that's super complex, it's dangerous if you don't have respect for how much of a mess it can create in your sight picture. They can absolutely seduce designers into overplaying their hand. Starting at 8:55, I have no idea what this song is, but it was the right song. It's intricate, progressive, and methodical. The track spoon feeds the audience while Shaun establishes pattern recognition before the tempo ramp. At 9:03, the droning pad enters the musical arrangement, and the shot directionality shifts with the introduction of that pad. Do you hear the unsettling feeling in the music? He leans into that, changing the geometry without breaking the logic that he's already introduced to the audience. At 9:06, the tempo increases. The synth stabs tighten. Effects change again. But here's the quiet genius move. The 3-shot volley structure stays regimented. Why does that matter? Modern EDM music, the elements of the arrangement that you're hearing, that music lives in pattern establishment. That volley structure becomes the spine holding the line while everything else evolves. At 9:07, Shaun starts to fracture the symmetry on the field. Each wheel becomes its own focal entity. The field starts breathing independently. At 9:11, my first real tiny little critique. It's a small one in an otherwise insanely complex sequence, especially considering Shaun's rounding the horn, I guess you could say, and trying to take the eye on a journey through the effect movements that are happening on this wildly segregated field. As the fronts come into play, the quadrant sequencing momentarily, at least for me, loses its conversational flow. The right side brocade comet sequence in between 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock on wheel right doesn't quite handshake with where the eye is sent next. And I guess if I were to reiterate that, it's not necessarily that it doesn't handshake, because it is going in the direction that things are eventually going to hit and then bounce back from. What it does is it happens so fast that I missed it, and I had to rewind and watch it a couple of times to understand the intention behind the sequence. The preceding sequences happened so quickly that I felt like I missed the connection. Shaun, tell me, was this sequence a tie together? one of those blank spots on the timeline between cool sequence 1 and cool sequence 2 that you just stare at the ceiling thinking to yourself, how in the hell am I going to glue these two cool ideas together? I'm curious. At 9:14, ladies and gentlemen, the sub-drop snot rocket. I'm guessing this might be one of Shaun's miscues. On the chance that it was intentional, I'll say this. Sub-drops are hold on to your butt sound design elements that work over a period of time to bring listeners to anticipate this next big move. The thing about this comment, it's doing its own thing way over here while 42 other things are screaming for your attention over there. That shot is like the party popper taken into the stadium bathroom at the Steel Panther concert after your section's 30 minutes into winning free chili dogs. There's so much cool stuff happening out on the concert floor, but, let's shoot for a good time everywhere. At 9:18, the symmetry snaps back. It's a chef's kiss. Longer burning effects lock the focal point, allowing Shaun to shape-craft tales that rebound and evolve as the palette shifts. My final thoughts on the wheel section, freaking phenomenal. With the sequencing being so much of a geometry game, I can tell how many micro decisions went into shaping this sight picture. Great job, Shaun. At 9:27, controlled chaos gets to stretch its legs. The open field delivers. Yes, a unit drops. Super unfortunate happens, but the effect density and the color stacking cover it up almost immediately. The separation between the blues and the reds and the purples in the high verticals against the reds and the greens in the mid-high, it creates a subtle organization inside of the disorder. And that subtle organization is something that judges are always going to notice. It demonstrates Shaun's command of what's happening in the verticals. From 9:38 to 9:46, noise begins to dominate the sight picture. One final whistle to salute volley capped off with a perfectly placed glittering horsetail on the sub-drop before the synth stabs pull you right back into that final sequence of wheel work, which ends with what I can only describe as an entire semi-truck's worth of single shots slamming together into a massive layered wall. It's an immensely powerful last hit. This segment is a really strong, award-winning example of how to manage complexity without losing the audience. Pattern discipline, contextual pacing, dimensional awareness, and intentional control over focus all show up here in a big way. So here's the community question for this episode. When you are designing high complexity moments, how do you center yourself when so many different variables are pulling you in just as many different directions creatively or technically? What's your process for keeping it all on track? So, does this pyro segment suck? Hell no, it's a major award winner. Ladies, get the ladies propped up and your Sharpies ready because Shaun's coming to a chili cook-off near you. If you're lucky, he might even bring his sub-drop snot rocket. That is going to do it for this week. I'm Bozy with the Rhythm Pyro Podcast. Go check out the show. All we do is geek out over pyro show design. You can find us anywhere you like to enjoy podcasts. Now, stop talking about it.
Get featured on Does This Pyro Segment Suck Wednesday by submitting your segment clip at the link below. Every contest cycle, we're picking random winners from our featured segments to win rhythm gear, plus a whole host of prizes provided by our sponsors. Now stop talking about it and go submit.
Pyro segment suck. Is it $1 million or totally f***ed? Light the match, let the sparks fly high, or leave us asking, when did you die? It's Wednesday, baby. Does it suck?